Welcome to the Prophecy Club. I've got a very important broadcast today, and I've got a request. I would like for you to send this broadcast out to all of your friends, yes, even some of them that might disagree with it, or some of them that are asleep and don't believe that there's any problems coming, because those problems apparently are at our door. So, first, one paragraph to refresh your memory, and in case someone doesn't know this. So, Dumitru Duduman, a Romanian pastor that smuggled Bibles into Romania and Russia, was sent to America. He arrived in 1984. The angel Gabriel came to him and said that the fall of America will start with an internal revolution in America, started by the communists. Some of the people will start fighting against the government. The government will be busy with the internal problems. Then from the oceans, Russia, Cuba, Nicaragua, Central America, Mexico, and two of the countries will attack and defeat America in one day, in 1 hour, so great riches will come to naught. Now, let me jump to Benjamin Fulford, benjaminfulford.net. Now, let me tell you, he is not a Christian, and there are many things that he puts on his website I do not agree with, and so I'm not sending you to his website. But occasionally, sometimes things from non-Christian sources can confirm what we Christians and what the prophecies are saying, and this is one of them, or at least part of it is. May 3rd, 2021, headline, Geopolitical Mega Quake Ready to Blow. I'll read it again. Geopolitical Mega Quake Ready to Blow. While the Western world wanders through this dystopia of fake Joe Biden presidency and a manufactured pandemic, something huge is brewing. A thousands-of-year-old regime is facing systemic collapse, and secret negotiations about its replacement are ongoing. We cannot talk in detail about the negotiations yet for security reasons. All we can say is that it will be the biggest thing since monotheism began in ancient Egypt thousands of years ago. When it happens, it will be on all the screens and the news outlets. Until then, operational secrecy is vital, so let's look at the signs of the systemic collapse. In other words, he's saying, if you read between the lines, a lot of things we've been talking about here on Prophecy Club are about to hit. I believe that based upon what finalwakeupcall.info, which I'm not going to read again today, read several times, he's saying, I'm talking about finalwakeupcall.info, says that we're coming to a new financial system. The scriptures say that we're coming to a world government, and the end of that world government will be the mark of the beast, the Antichrist system. However, I believe, based upon new information from wakeupcall.info and other sources like that, that in the beginning it's going to be good. Now let me go back to Benjamin Fulford. He goes on to say, the biggest thing visible is hyperinflation emerging in the U.S. I'm going to read that again, and I'm going to tell you right up front, if you do not have food enough for your family to stay inside your home, in other words, the streets are not safe, or whatever, maybe you're not allowed to go outside, maybe you don't want to go outside from some kind of a pandemic out there, I don't know. But let's assume the worst. You cannot go outside. Do you have food? Do you have water? Do you have some way to stay warm? Can you exist inside your house? You need to, I'm telling you, hope you're listening. It's not a joke. I'm not trying to just make money here. Yes, our ministry does need to grow. We need to reach more people, but you've got to think it through. Think it through. Ask yourself, I can't leave my house. Does my family have food? Is the food edible? And which, by the way, I guess I should say, if you need it, I just checked with heavensharvest.com, and they have a new shipment in. They got plenty of the good coveted freeze-dried food, and just use the promo code STAN. It helps your Prophecy Club. So also ask yourself, do you have water? Okay, do you have a water source? Do you have a Berkey water filter so that if you have to, you can pull the water off your roof or out of some mud puddle someplace and run it through a Berkey and drink it and know that it's clean, safe water? If not, Prophecy Club has Berkeys in stock. Just a matter of fact, a new shipment arrived with those too. Maybe it's not just accident. And I also recommend you have gold and silver, too. And, of course, cornerstoneasset.com, and just mention Prophecy Club when you call. Okay, back to Benjamin Fulford. He says the biggest thing visible is hyperinflation emerging in the U.S. This is something commonly seen during regime collapse. Well, that's what's happening in America right now. The cause is the people behind Biden avatar printing money like there is no tomorrow, parenthesis. For them, it is probably true. Government handouts exploded in March to an annualized $8.1 trillion, double the $4.1 trillion from February and $5 trillion above the pre-pandemic level of $3.2 trillion. This is what it has done to commodity prices over the last year. Now, what does that mean, commodity prices? That means when you pull the sugar off of the shelf in the grocery store, you call it a commodity when it is bought like the boatload or the truckload. And so when we're saying commodity prices, if you want to know what sugar is going to cost a few months down the road, you look at the commodity prices. Now, back to the article. This is what has been done to the commodity prices over the last year. Even though the party has just barely started, lumber up 265%, WTI crude oil up 210%, corn up 84%, copper up 83%, soybeans up 72%, silver up 65%, sugar up 59%, cotton up 54%, platinum 52%, palladium 32%, wheat 19%, coffee 13%, meaning in the next few months, you can count on it. Not only have we seen the price of gasoline going up, but just about everything we're using is going to get more expensive. Well, guess what? That's what the prophets have been telling us now for 4 or 5 years is coming, and apparently it's about to arrive. He goes on to say supply chain experts say that they have never seen anything like what is happening now, meaning that right now, like in musical chairs, when the music stops, you got to get to that chair so that you're not the last one standing. Well, right now, the music, some people say, is still playing. Some people say the music has already stopped. But the point is, we prophecy students, we should be prepared. We should know these things are coming. Back to the article. There's a total global logjam. Goods cannot get shipped in some cases, and supply-side inflation is on a scale we have not seen for a long time. Long time looks imminent. There is also a food shortage emerging in the U.S., with food prices rising and basic items like chicken and meat running in short supply. Meanwhile, all of the Biden funny money being handed out to appease the masses is also removing their incentive to work. This situation has reached the point where McDonald's franchises are paying people $50 just to show up for a job interview, and convenience store chains are paying $500 signing bonuses just to come to work. So what if tomorrow the world changes as we know it, and, quote, the crisis will hit you during your sleep, and all of a sudden you wake up poor? Well, he says it will happen, and it will happen lightning fast. He says the music is still playing. I'm not certain that it is still playing. He says the music is still playing, but few do realize that every market is deep faked. So prepare. He says buy physical gold and silver. Don't just buy it, not take it. You got to buy it, and matter of fact, as I told you back in December, the Lord spoke to my heart, and this is the same way he speaks to me every day and lays on my heart what to put on the broadcast, just like he did today. And he said that the market, I'm talking about the stock market, is about to collapse. And whatever you don't want to lose, put it into silver. So I called my good friend and now our sponsor, Terry Saka, and I said, okay, I need to get some silver. I don't have much money, but what I do, I want to put in silver. He took a check over the phone, and the check cleared the next day, and a few days later, the silver arrived. That is what I'm doing. Now, am I telling you to do anything? No, I'm not telling you to buy anything. But I am telling you, you need to ask yourself, there's going to be an interim term here of probably a year or two of some really tough times before the good times start. And the music is, some people say already stopped. Some people says it's about to stop. And you don't want to be the one left standing without a chair. One final thing from Benjamin Fulford. The decision at top brass has now been made to end this madness. We're talking about now here in the world. And get the world back to what was normal, not this so-called new normal, this cult of lunatics, are ramming down the global civilian population neck. The move to use the pandemic as an excuse for strict social control and V passports, I can't say the word, V passports, is also connected to an attempt to initiate a mark of the beast financial system. And I believe that is what it's talking about. In other words, why the masks? Because to get rid of the masks, you have to take the V. And why the V? Because probably some bad things going to happen. I can't say. You have to understand, there's filters out there. If I say it wrong, they'll pull me off. And then you won't hear it at all. But at the end of the day, if you feel like you've been pressured to wear a mask, if you feel like you've been pressured to wear or to take a vaccine, ask yourself, just how much pressure are they going to put on people to take the mark of the beast? And the answer is a lot. Okay, now let's jump down to a little bit of prophecy. This is from Henry Gruver, only a couple of sentences from his vision. Now, Henry Gruver is my favorite speaker out of 160 speakers we had over some 25 years. And if there's anybody I know hears from God, in addition to Leslie and Dimitri and a few other people, it's Henry. I know this is God. Listen to what he says. So Trump throws the shawl off of his shoulders. He's leaning against it, draped over back behind the reclining chair. Finally, Trump stands up and says, well, I gotta go. I got a lot to do. I'm very busy. Then he says, I'll be back. I'll be back. And he said, I'll be back twice. In the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let a thing be established. So when he says it twice, that's God telling us you can count on it. In the vision, Trump left his shawl, so Henry Gruver picked up the shawl, ran outside, waving his arms. Then he heard a voice speak from behind him saying, that's the voice of God, he'll be back. Meaning, I think somehow Trump is going to be back. I don't know if he'll be back as president of the defunct, collapsed, all-capital United States of America, or if he'll be a part of the new Republic of the United States. My guess is the latter. Then let's jump to Leslie Johnson. This was a dream given to her January 3rd, 2021. She said, I had a dream that represents the church at large. I saw a lot of people at an amusement park. Everything was fun, but they started getting very, very hungry. All the restaurants and the food availability was gone. I hope you're listening. They were not able to get food at this amusement park, so they were leaving in droves. But when they left without their shoes. They were all barefoot and very hungry. Is that saying that soon the food is going to be gone in America, down to the point to where people are barefoot? I think so. They were all looking for food, begging for even one piece of bread to give them. They were searching for something. They were searching for the one and only one that could feed them. And in case you're saying, yeah, I've heard all of this, well, you haven't heard this one. This is a brand new one. This comes to us from David Phillips, and I may have him on later on this week to actually give this and some other dreams that he's had. And I believe he's hearing from God. I believe this is of God. He calls the dream pandemic. 3/8/2021. He said, I had a dream that my family went on a small vacation, like a camping trip. While on a trip, rampant inflation started, like nothing we had ever seen or heard of before. All of a sudden, it was like we were living in the Old West. We stopped in one area and one person was selling food. He was selling crackers like Ritz crackers. He was selling them individually. He wanted $1,000 per cracker. The main thing that people wanted was food. People had no such money, so they traded whatever items they did have for the food. People became very dangerous during this time. Out of desperation, even families would work harder to try to survive. People would steal anything that they get their hands on, even out in broad daylight, and were willing to risk extreme danger to do it. Everything became valuable, even old belts that were given to people as gifts when they worked at places such as uniform belts, because these things could no longer be purchased at all, anywhere. While on this trip, it was important for us to try to keep any meats as frozen as possible to preserve their life. But absolutes and things such as food safety were no longer critical anymore. The most single important item was food supplies, especially non-refrigerated foods. Then I woke, I fell back asleep, and I had another dream about the same topic. People were stealing common small objects out in the open, like baseballs in the neighborhoods, and risking to be killed for them. Surprisingly, no authorities would be called so long as nobody had been hurt very badly. People were working together with their families, even young children, to steal even the smallest of things. While trying to stop your items from getting stolen, you also understood that they were doing this because they were desperate for food, in need for food. At the same time, I thought these were personal dreams for God's guidance to prepare me personally accordingly. However, in recent news, he says, in danger of the gene-altering Vs, you know what I'm talking about, and the likelihood that they will create a man-made bioweapon changed my mind. Now I believe it's actually the order of what will happen next. Another pandemic, followed by an economic collapse, a repeat, but both much worse. So, the first was like a dry run for what is coming, and we now know what to prepare for. Now, I've told this before. Let's go to July 25th, 2010. Leslie had a dream called the mudslide dream. I'm going to skip the first part of it. I'm going to get right to the point. The scene changed. We were on a boat floating in mud. In other words, Leslie and I were in our ministry working in a filthy world. There were already fish everywhere in our boat, but suddenly, fish from all directions began jumping out of the mud into our boat. Among them were several very large fish. I was holding a large, unusual-looking fish which had no scales. It looked like a skinned cat. Stan asked, "What is that?" I replied, "It's a fish, as if you can't see." I said, "Well, why is this so strange-looking? I've never seen a fish like that before." Leslie said, "This fish looks like a chicken with the skin peeled off because they have nothing left to protect him now. They are jumping into the boat of Jesus when their houses fell into the mudslide." Now, the interpretation is that there's about to be a financial collapse, and many people that will lose their wherewithal in the financial collapse then will turn to Jesus. Now, let's go to the Plumline Dream from Coverstone, January 9-11. Only part of it, a paragraph. I asked, where were we going? And he simply said, to do business. The angel then passed the street sign which said Wall Street. We walked further down the street past the sign, and he stopped. He looked into the distance at a taller building and held the rope and measured the plumb line against the building ahead. The building was obviously tilted away from the line he was holding. Then the man pushed the building with both hands, and it began to shake back and forth. It kept rocking even after he took his hands off. The building was moving back and forth, some of the windows being broken open, and I saw office furniture, people, files, and folders, several kinds of currency, coins, precious metals, all things of value floating down. As they hit the ground, this violent wind swept them away. He's talking about Wall Street. In other words, the word is that Wall Street is going to collapse. Then we jump to June 22 of 2020, Coverstone again, only a portion. I saw businesses shuttered, closed. I saw schools closed, schoolrooms with cobwebs hanging in them, kind of like we have today. No one had been in them for months. I saw bank buildings with roofs being taken off and money flying through the roof like a vacuum cleaner. I saw the wealth taken away. Politicians in back rooms making deals with people, patting each other on the back and laughing, smiling, and murking. Then let's go to August 10th, Coverstone again. Then I saw a $100 bill the size of a flag hanging on a flagpole, burning on one corner. It was being lowered like a flag is being lowered at the end of the day. People had their hands going over their hearts, and they were crying because the god of money was being lowered. The dollar had lost its value, and it burned until about a third of it was left. To the protesters, the death of the dollar was a celebration. Many people were celebrating, while others were devastated and totally torn up by the death of the dollar. The value of the American dollar was dying. I heard someone playing taps in the background. Now let's jump to Shane Warren. July 10, 2012, he came into Prophecy Club, made a DVD. You can get it at watchprophecyclub.com or watch it instantly there. Called Storm, Judgment, and Revival. I'm skipping. The scene changed to a news reporter saying, "This is not a natural storm. This is not normal. It's raining." He reached down and picked up a fist of dollar bills. "It's raining dollar bills. It's almost like they're worthless. They're worthless. It was raining worthless dollars." Skipping. The New Madrid fault in the heartland of America has just had a major earthquake. I heard a booming voice speak from behind me saying, "They've divided my land, now I will divide their land." Skipping again, the scene changed. I was taken to a room in the Middle East. I saw India, Syria, Indonesia, Turkey, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Egypt, Russia, and China discussing how to devalue the dollar of America by buying oil with gold. We will buy oil with gold and flush the market with dollars and drive the value of the dollar down. I saw drastic drops in the value of the dollar. Skipping again, the devaluing of our dollar caused major rioting in the streets. I saw silver, not gold, begin to drastically increase in value. I saw riots break out in major cities all over America. People were rioting in the streets, and on their signs was written, "Give us our entitlements, give us our entitlements." Skipping again, at the same time I saw the church arise with healing in her wings for this moment. I saw God prospering greatly, many people acquiring things of great wealth, and a great wealth transfer coming into the hands of believers. Churches became cities of refuge. The body of Christ stood up like a mighty sleeping giant in the earth and began to minister. People were coming to them. Signs, wonders, and miracles were poured out all over America. I saw America being shaken as the worldly couldn't go to the government for help anymore. They had to go to the church for help. Entire cities became cities of refuge. There was life, safety, peace, and the presence of God in the cities, not the woods or not the mountains. The cities. People running to the cities, revival arrived. It was a two-sided coin. As judgment hit, so did God's miracle revivals. As great inflation caused an economic storm, great revival arrived. God will raise up His church. Then in October 2021, we had Daniel Daves come in and make a DVD called I Saw the Dollar Dead, which you can order the DVD at prophecyclub.com. Watch it instantly at watchprophecyclub.com. But pretty much all of this text I've been reading from today is in the book, God's Warnings for America, available at prophecyclub.com. He said, I was standing in what seemed to be like the downtown Dallas, Texas area, along with multitudes of people. I noticed big screens upon many of the buildings. Suddenly, a man who looked like a government official appeared on the big screens and began to make an announcement. He said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I have an announcement to make. America, as you have known it, has ceased to exist. All property lines have been dissolved, and the dollar is worthless." When the people heard this announcement, they began to panic. Then the scene changed. I was suddenly standing at a gas station, a convenience store. This convenience store looked a little different than the typical convenience store. It had a high fence attached to the back side of it with barbed wire across the top. Inside the fence were tractors, power equipment, lawnmowers, chainsaws, all kinds of different items that clearly had been recently traded. I was standing beside an Indian man who was clearly the owner and manager of the convenience store. Frantic people were pulling their vehicles up to the fuel pumps and buying gas. My intuition told me that they were heading west. Then an SUV pulled up with an open trailer in the back, an entire family in the vehicle, and they all looked worried. They had all thrown all of their belongings into a trailer and strapped items on the top of the vehicle. The father jumped out of the SUV and began to come up to the man, saying, "I need a full tank of gas." And he pulled out his billfold to give him some dollars. The store manager said, "I'm sorry, I don't take U.S. dollars." The father looked concerned and said, "Well, what do you take then?" The manager said, "Well, what do you have?" The father and the manager walked over to the trailer and started looking through it to find something of value they could trade for a tank of gas. The store manager clearly was going to choose whatever he wanted in order to allow the frantic man to take some gas. The dream ended. Now the point is what? It sounds to me like we are on the precipice of many of the things that we've been talking about for years all coming to pass. So what do I suggest? Well, the first thing, obviously, to prepare spiritually. Make certain that the sin is out of our lives, the lives of our family members, those people that are in our household. Second, I think that you should have some kind of an EMP thing so that if a nuclear attack comes out, the computer chips in your home still continue to work. Ask yourself, if you cannot leave your home for safety reasons or whatever the reason, for a year, do you have what it takes for you to survive inside the four walls of your home for 1 year? If you don't, then I suggest you make some changes. If you're looking for food, I recommend heavensharvest.com Put in the promo code STAN. It helps Prophecy Club. If you're looking to get some kind of an EMP device, go to EMPShield.com. Use the promo code PROPHECY. That helps your Prophecy Club. And if you're looking for some kind of a precious metal, recommend you go to CornerstoneAssetMetals.com. Just mention Prophecy Club when you call. In other words, ask yourself, I can't get out of my home. What do I need to survive for a year inside my home? Ask yourself all those questions. Ask the Lord to help you, to show you, because nobody knows really what we need to do to prepare, except the Lord, but He can show you. I want to invite all of you to come to the School of the Watchmen, June 11 to 13. You don't have to, but I suggest strongly that you get a spiral ring notebook and physically write out, very nice and neat, the entire book of Revelation, and come. Because I'm going to spend a couple of days showing you in a deep dive, helping you to understand Revelation. If you get questions as we go along, and you will, I'm going to be there to answer them. It's not going to be like a me talk, you shut up. This is going to be a bunch of prophecy students that are taking a deep dive into understanding Revelation and whatever prophecies we need to, so that we can be ready for the tsunami of souls that are about to come into the kingdom. Yes, it's good to have survival preparations, but brothers and sisters, at the end of the day, our objective is really not to try to live as long as we can live. Our objective is to try to fill the kingdom with as many souls as we possibly can. That's the reason you want to go to prophecyclub.com, get signed up to come to School of the Watchmen, June 11 to 13, prophecyclub.com. Leslie made a perfume, and it's called Virtuous, and it is absolutely awesome. It is the best scent I've ever smelled in my life, any place, anywhere. You're going to get Leslie's Virtuous perfume, her book, More Than a Ruby and DVD, and a rose pen, and a silk rose, and 10 milliliters of Leslie's Perfect Touch anointing oil. 6 items valued at $162, all for a gift of just $100. That's Leslie's Mother's Day gift at prophecyclub.com. Prophet Leslie Johnson has a new book called Kinah Not Right. She says, an invitation for the majestic presence or manifestation of a fallen angel called Shekinah has entered the church. This powerful, seductive, demonic spirit presents a lie that looks so tempting to many Christians, causing the worshipers to feel as if they have entered into a higher dimension of communication with the Lord. Shekinah is actually a fallen angel, a demonic presence, even more subtle and more powerful than those demons that routinely attack us day to day. Kinah Not Right. 1 for 20, 10 for 30, 20 for 50 at prophecyclub.com. Prophet Leslie's book, Snake in the House, is talking about the compromise in the body of Christ. The serpent is coiled in the church, hiding in the weeds of compromise. What are the manifestations of lying signs and wonders? What are the false religions allowed in the church? What is wrong with yoga? And what does Hinduism have to do with the Christian church? And what is wrong with contemplative and centering prayer? What do I do if I have been exposed to the deceptive Kundalini spirit? 1 for 20, but don't do that. We offer them in shrink-wrap sets of 10. 1 set of 10 for 30, 2 sets of 10 for 50 at prophecyclub.com. Write out the book of Revelation in a spiral ring notebook and bring it to Stan's School of the Watchmen. I'll lay hands on you and anoint you to receive the spirit of revelation. Then I will teach through the book of Revelation to make you an anointed teacher of Bible prophecy. June 11 to 13. Registration is limited to 100 people at prophecyclub.com. Stan's School of the Watchmen, prophecyclub.com, June 11 to 13. We now have 9 big Berkeys, 6 royal Berkeys, 4 imperial Berkeys, and 2 crown Berkeys, and most of the time, everyone is out of stock. We have them in stock, prophecyclub.com. The worst thing is to find yourself in an emergency and you do not have the food. But the second worst thing is to open the food you bought and your family won't eat it because it is garbage. That's the reason so many people get heavensharvest.com food, because it's really good food, edible food in an emergency. It may be 10, 15, 20 years down the road. All of a sudden, you do need it. You can open it and your family is going to eat it. heavensharvest.com. Put in the promo code STAN. It helps your prophecy club. heavensharvest.com, promo code STAN.